really do that.
The interest here in earthquake preparedness always rises sharply right after any earthquake. The high death toll in this one is a reminder that earthquake preparedness should be a full-time job in this geologically active part of the country. Dan?
Thank you, John Blackstone. As John mentioned, Vice President Quayle was put front and center in terms of the official White House and representing President Bush here today. The president himself has made it clear he plans to be here later on in the week. But in terms of visiting this earthquake-stricken area today, it was Vice President Quayle who did so. And after he toured parts of the disaster area, this is what the Vice President had to say.
Just looking at it, it is going to be a long-term operation. You have one highway on top of another that is simply glued together. That is a very severe result from this very dramatic earthquake.
Vice President of the United States, Dan Quayle, today after he'd made a tour here. With us live now from Oakland, California, as part of this CBS News special broadcast about the California earthquake is the United States Senator from California, one of them, Pete Wilson. Senator Wilson, thank you for being with us. Vice President Quayle was making the point that it's going to take a very long time to come back from this. How long, how much, and how do they do it?
Dan, there's no way to know at this point. You can only speculate. This appalling collapse of the bridge behind us, of the freeway, the double-decker, 18 months, 2 years, the costs are whatever the current cost of total replacement. It was just appalling. When I first saw it, I said, my God, I don't believe it. The governor echoed that almost verbatim this afternoon when he saw it. But the good news is that the people have been magnificent. They have been both the public, the firefighters trying to dig those people out, the volunteers who have worked all night in the Red Cross centers have just done a magnificent job.
They've done a magnificent job, but they need help. From where is that help going to come? Now, let's be candid. You're a person, and proud of it, who in the past sometimes said, listen, we need to reduce federal funds for some kind of social programs. You weren't talking about this kind of rebuilding program.
No, and I don't think anybody is. This is not just a social program, but in this instance, it has that dimension as well. We are going to have to spend money to replace this. Just as we're helping the citizens of South Carolina, those in Puerto Rico from Hugo, I think there's an obligation on those who were spared to do something to help those that weren't. We are going to have to do it. We're going to have to do it very, very fast, and but it won't happen fast. It's going to take a long time, and a lot of courage is going to have to be spent as well as dollars.
We have only a few seconds left here, Senator, but for people on the outside who are saying, I want to help, but I don't quite know what to do, what can they do?
They can send money to the Red Cross, to the Salvation Army, who are stretched thin between Hugo and this one, and that was a plea explicitly made this morning when Vice President Quayle was here. A Red Cross worker running one of the 14 shelters said, we need help, we need money.
Senator Pete Wilson, thank you very much. We appreciate you being with us. Of all the things that we've talked about today, we've over and over have shown you one piece of video, home video taken by an amateur. We're going to do it again now because it again gives you a sense, a feel of being here during the earthquake. This piece of video was taken not back here, but it was taken on the Oakland Bay Bridge. It was the most dramatic evidence of the destructive power that an earthquake can make, particularly when you're in an automobile and on a bridge. One motorist died when a portion of the bridge collapsed into the lower deck. Now, we're talking about the Bay Bridge, not this freeway back here. This morning, station KPIX reporter Dave Ryan ventured out on the bridge to report on the destruction on that bridge.
This is the area where the bridge has split. You can see up at the top of the bridge now you have Caltrans engineers and workers are now going over the structural damage, and they are now actually beginning to work. Their concern is not the upper deck, it's the lower deck, and as our cameraman pans down, you can see why. The reason is you are looking at water. That is the lower deck of the Bay Bridge. It is split in half, the roadway, and you can see the water of the bay beneath us. The problem is that when this section of the upper deck collapsed onto the lower deck during the earthquake yesterday, it split the roadway in half and did extensive structural damage, and it could take perhaps 3 weeks or more to repair the damage. And you can see, again, this is part of the damaged upper deck of the bridge, which has collapsed onto the lower deck, and we're now panning around to show you, again, some of the damage. There is still one car here, and again, you can see where the roadway has split, and you can actually see the water now through the bridge.
We need a second input. Joining me now is the consumer reporter from CBS This Morning, Aaron Moriarty. Aaron, I gather that the engineers knew some time ago that this particular freeway, 880, might be trouble in case of an earthquake.
Absolutely. In fact, none of this really came as a surprise. Sorry, Dan, I had to grab a
live
microphone.
television. It's
I know
okay.
it is live television. The actual